Hello, if you want to watch exclusive lemon content on What If Naruto, then go to my Boosty. The first link in the description here contains such hot stories for adults, such as What If Naruto was a daddy for Sarada, or Kushina and Mikoto vulgar Naruto mommies. Follow the link and enjoy. I'm waiting for you.
Or 4 times a week being attacked and beaten unconscious by an angry mob, hoping. Dance of Awakening. It was dusk when he was caught, and the blonde 5-year-old huddled in a dark alley, trampled to the gills by adults who hated him for some reason he couldn't fathom or understand. It was just another day. She was screaming, crying and begging for mercy, but as always, that only made them even angrier. He just couldn't understand why they hated him or called him a monster or a demon. When the darkness invaded him this time, it was different. He knew that he was unconscious, but he was still awake and seemed to be falling. Then suddenly he found himself in a very dirty sewer. With a couple of centimeters of water, Naruto stood up and looked around for a minute before realizing that he was not in pain. "I'm dead, they killed me this time," Naruto said, and then shuddered when an inhumanly deep laughter echoed in the sewer. "Come and see me, boy. We must talk," a terrifying voice said. The voice terrified him, but despite the fear, he followed her down the long tunnel that went around the corner and down another long tunnel to a huge room. On the other side was the biggest cage door I had ever seen. Even the main gate of the village was tiny compared to it. "Where am I and who are you?" little Naruto asked, nervously but bravely. Just because he was running away from the villagers didn't mean he was afraid of them, he just couldn't defend himself. He was too small and weak. A pair of huge red eyes appeared in the darkness of the cage. "We are inside your mind, boy, and I am Kyuubi no Kitsune, the greatest of all tailed beasts and Lord of Hell." Kyuubi roared loudly. "And I'm the reason they hate you, but I'm also going to help you." Naruto stayed there, filled with sadness and a rapidly growing fury like I had never felt before. He was about to scream at the invisible creature in the cage when it said that it would help him. That caught his attention. Since only one person had helped him, the old man of the Great Tower. "If everyone hates me because of you, why do you want to help me?" Naruto said, trying to look tough. "For such a small one, you have the guts to stand up to me like that, and you don't even know who I am," Kyuubi said, impressed. "You're too young to understand it now, but basically, if you die, I die, and I refuse to die enclosed in too small a key. So I will give you a power that never—" "No, Kyuubi," a female voice interrupted. "I will not allow you to alter his fate to suit your ill wishes." Kyuubi shuddered and looked past Naruto, who turned at the sound of his voice. "What are you doing here, biter?" "Silence," the woman screamed, humiliating Kyuubi. "Don't talk to me like that, beast. Even your power is nothing compared to mine," the woman said, and walked gracefully towards the stunned Naruto. He was 6 feet tall, had waist-length white hair and a plural kimono that showed her beautiful figure and her big breasts. He smiled warmly at Naruto, who relaxed and smiled back. "Naruto-kun, I wish I didn't have to do this, but Kyuubi is right. Your destiny has changed in some way, and those who attack you are going to kill you. This was not supposed to happen. Although I do not agree with your method, someone must intervene, and I will. One of your greatest virtues is luck, but it seems that it has been annulled. I have many names, but many humans call me the Lady of Luck. That's what you can call me. In order for your life to be as similar as it should be, I must give you a gift that no mortal has ever had, the golden kiss. You won't remember this for many years as anything more than a good feeling. You will have a luck superior to that of any mortal. I'm afraid I can't tell you more. I must act now before it is too late," she said in a beautiful motherly voice. Then she knelt down and gently kissed Naruto on the forehead before disappearing. Kyuubi watched her and Naruto disappear, then started laughing. This wasn't what he had planned, but if she did what he thought he had just done, this would be even more fun to watch than the way. Massacre of millions, and for him that was something special. The real world. While they were kicking Naruto, trying to kill him and his demon before the end appeared, 3 floors up. In the alces of a window above the 2-story building on the other side of the alley, the woman tripped, hit the vase, and sent him plummeting, where he shattered on the mob leader's head, knocking him unconscious. Believing someone had seen them, they scattered and left the man face down in the alley with a concussion and blood emanating from a head wound. Right after dispersing, the leader appeared. He was a tall, thin man with spiky silver hair over his mask. The other was a more muscular man with black hair, and a shorter woman with large breasts, but well proportioned for her build, and long purple hair. Venom takes that crap to headquarters of the and tell Iviki to have fun with him. I'll take Naruto back to his apartment. I'll have Lokagesima's personal doctor meet us there, and we'll set up guard until morning, the silver-haired man said from behind. From his wolf mask. The purple-haired woman smiled sadistically behind her snake mask, and he threw the unconscious and bloodied man over his shoulder. Even if it was only temporary, he loved being an ambo guard for this child. It gave him the opportunity to hurt people legally. She didn't like the little blonde guy much, but she had seen how bad his life had been the last month she had been assigned to keep an eye on him, but I had a certain respect for him because, whatever happened, he never gave up. I could understand that. His life until recently had been just as cursed. I understand that you hate what the child has inside, but even I am not sadistic enough to kill a small child for something he can't control, and it's those bastards at the hospital. Venom said, his anger and voice rising with every word. Calm down, Venom, I know how you feel, but even we can't kill people without a good reason, and you know it. We have a job to do. Stand down, Wolf said. Vanoma felt and disappeared. Do you know what will happen if he ever discovers someone attacking the child? I doubt even we can stop him from killing them, the Ton Man in the bear mask said seriously. The thin man in the wolf mask sighed, nodded, picked up Naruto, and disappeared with Bear. Naruto's mindscape. So the snake slut has a soft spot for the kid, it suits me. If Kami and his other heavenly bitches take care of him, they will lock me in their mind if I try to influence him in the wrong way. And I won't even be able to talk to him. They want me to be a hero, okay, but it will be my way, Kyuubi said with a wide smile. Naruto, 6 years old, 6:57 a.m., the academy. Naruto walked down the hallway of the academy towards his first class. He didn't show it, but he was really nervous, despite what the old man and his new friends at Raymond's post said. To be around all these people, and especially the ninja masters, made him nervous. He saw the all-too-familiar hatred in the eyes of every adult he'd met so far. Unlike the villagers, if they decided to kill him, there was nothing he could do, not even running would help him against them. He stopped at the door and looked at all the other ninjas. He had seen most of them around the village and recognized them, especially the children of the big clans. There's the fat kid with the fries, the lazy kid, the bug kid seems fine, but creepy, there's the dog kid. There's Mr. Important, the Manique and the big mouth. I don't know why they like him, just because he's from a big clan and he's rich, he thinks he's special, big idiot. Naruto thought, then his frown disappeared when he saw a girl with blue hair and white eyes looking at him. He didn't think anyone there had seen him. She suddenly turned red and looked down at her desk. She's weird, I wonder who she is, I think she's one of those people with eyes, but why haven't I seen her before? Oh well, I'd better come in and sit down, I promised Grandpa I'd try to behave myself. Naruto thought, and then walked in, crossed the room, and sat right in the middle of everyone he recognized. This was lucky, maybe I can play cards with some of them later, good thing I brought the deck Grandpa bought me. Naruto thought and smiled. I had discovered a couple of months ago that I was very lucky with cards, dice, any game or bet, usually ramen, I always won. Even against the old man I called Grandpa. A minute later, the bell rang, and a guy with a big scar on his nose came in and smiled. I'm your teacher, you can call Iruka-sensei. Before we start, let's see who's here, Iruka said. He went to his desk, grabbed the clipboard with the names and a pencil. Chuji Akimichi. Chu here. Shino Aburami. Iruka asked, and then smiled subtly when Shino raised his hand enough to see him. Just like his father, Iruka thought. Naruto listened and watched as everyone was called. I wanted to see who they were. Finally, all those he recognized were named except one. Here. Naruto shouted and waved his arm for everyone to see. Most of them laughed. He realized that some people considered him an idiot, but that didn't matter to him. Not even that many people looked at him like adults, but not with so much hatred. He looked at the last person and smiled at him. And not Yamanaka. Iruka said. Here next to Sasuke-kun. Hino said sweetly. Naruto felt the strong, for his age at least, murderous intent that filled the classroom when Hino said that. He looked at all the angry girls around him and almost felt sorry for Hino, almost, but not quite, then froze at the sight of her. The girl he now knew as Inada Yuga wasn't staring wide-eyed at Sasuke, but at him. That was until he saw her looking at him. He turned red, like a tomato, and fell on his face to the desk with a thud. She had to laugh at that. She was funny. Weird, but funny. He made a mental note to talk to her later. Maybe she wanted to be friends, and was too shy. Grandpa had given him some lectures about people, so he had a little idea why he was acting like that. In Naruto's mind, without him hearing, Kyuubi was bursting out laughing. He knew exactly why the girl was looking at him like that. He could have introduced himself and told her, but where was the fun? That boy Sasuke, Kyuubi had plans for him. If there was one thing he enjoyed, it was dethroning the arrogant and leaving them humiliated. He was glad that he had influenced Naruto enough to make him practice throwing objects, especially stones, but with his luck, the boy never missed. I was looking forward to the guns coming. 12:42 p.m., 5th period weapons class, outdoor shooting range. Naruto had watched everyone take their turn and launch the kunai. Most of them were pretty decent, but as he guessed, Sasuke was the best in the class with an almost perfect score of 95. Which made all the girls except Inada flatter him, and he would ignore them as usual. At least he could be nice to them, idiot, Naruto thought, and then he smiled even more than he already was when his turn came. He approached the table to pick up 5 of the 10 cribs, and that he had to throw. At least try to hit the target, Tobe, if you can see over the table, that is. Sasuke said, and laughed cruelly. Naruto felt a surge of familiar energy coursing through his body. It always started in his stomach, where he assumed that was where everyone's chakra originated when using it. He was about to take one when an idea popped into his mind. Iruka-sensei, we need to launch to the first targets. They are only 9 meters away, Naruto said with a depressed expression, as if he was doing something too easy. Can I throw to the second targets? Everyone was silent and looked at the little guy. Blondie like he's crazy. Naruto, the other targets are 60 feet away and are for the advanced students. You can't reach them yet, Iruka said calmly. Yes, Tobe, he trained since the age of 2, and I still can't with those, so a dwarf like you couldn't. Sasuke said and laughed with most of the other students. Naruto clicked his lips silently as always and smiled broadly as he placed the hook. Of course I can, I always do. Iruka arched his eyebrows slightly at this. I had heard students bragging before, but this time it was different. I really thought Naruto could do it. Naruto, can you really hit those targets from here? Iruka asked calmly, but with a lot of curiosity. No one had hit those targets on their first day, not even Itachi Uchiha. Of course I can, Iruka-sensei. Naruto said with confidence. There's no chance, Tobe. You have more chance of getting kissed by these girls than hitting those targets, Sasuke said. Yes. All the girls shouted confidently, except one. Ah yes. And how about we take a bet? Naruto said seriously. Suddenly, all the girls were silent. They didn't like that look on the little blonde boy's face. It made them all nervous for some reason. What's the bet, Tobe? Sasuke asked, getting serious. Iruka felt the same strange feeling in his stomach as the girls. But I've seen that look in casinos before. It was the look of someone who knew he was going to win no matter what. Before allowing this, what are the conditions of the bet? He has to hit all 10 targets to get at least 1 point, Sasuke said. What if he doesn't? Iruka asked. Sasuke thought for a moment and then smiled cruelly. For the next month, you have to call me Sasuke-sama and do everything I tell you at the academy. What do you say, Naruto? Iruka said. It's a done deal. If I win, you have to do that for me, and if I hit the target with the 10, all the girls here have. They have to kiss me. Naruto exclaimed. He still wasn't interested in girls that way, he just knew they didn't want to, and that was enough for them to do it. All the girls there turned pale, several fainted, including Inada. Iruka's eyebrows rose at that. "Girls, you don't have to. We accept, my Sasuke-kun will not lose," Hino said when he regained his confidence. Sasuke looked around and saw a slight nod from everyone who was still conscious. Everyone annoyed him, but they contributed to his image as a future better student. "Deal," Sasuke said and walked over to Naruto. Iruka stopped Sasuke and waited for a moment while he made some girls wake up the few who had fainted. "Do you all agree with the terms of the bet? As a shinobi, your word is everything. It will define how other shinobi treat you and among your peers. If they don't trust you, you won't live long. Does everyone get it?" Iruka said seriously, and then he saw that everyone nodded. Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, shake hands, and make this a binding agreement. He saw them shake hands and then back away. Naruto looked at the big clock outside. "Since the class will end soon, I'll make this quick," Naruto said with a big smile. He took 5 kunai in each hand by the handles, crossed his arms over his chest, and, with a grunt, threw all 10 at once, extending his arms to his sides. Everyone was speechless and wide-eyed when the 10 kunai hit right in the middle of their targets. "So, who's the first one?" Naruto asked while licking his lips. "Toro Kaj, 15, 16. Sarutobi's pipe fell from his mouth to the desk as his jaw opened in surprise. "What did he do?" Sarutobi shouted with cage-level power. Iruka shuddered. "That's right, Okage-sama." Naruto Uzumaki hit all 10 targets at once, on his first throw. "I have never seen anything like this, not even an experienced Ambu, but," Iruka said. Sarutobi caught that and pulled himself together. But that, Iruka, was no skill, he didn't even aim, he just threw them, and I think I felt something of his chakra when he did it. But I'm pretty sure he only increased his strength so he could hit them. The rest was all Naruto. I watched him the rest of the day, when I had him, and notified his other teachers, they all said the same thing. He has the most amazing luck we have ever seen. There's one more thing, Okage-sama, it's Mizuki, she wants a transfer to another department. He will accept anything as long as it is away from Naruto. Naruto. Sarutobi slightly raised his right eyebrow. "What happened in your taijutsu class? Do you know how proud he is?" Well, by the time her class started, the news had already spread all over the academy. Mizuki argued with Naruto, and they ended up betting that Naruto wouldn't be able to hit him. And no matter how good he was at throwing things, that wouldn't save him in a fight, Iruka said, swallowing nervously. "Naruto has the worst and sloppiest taijutsu style I've ever seen. It's like I learned it on my own." They fought for a while, and I must say that Naruto has amazing reflexes. It's like he knew the attacks were coming, he got him. "Mizuki hit him," Sarutobi said, slightly worried. Iruka shook his head. "I don't know how, but Naruto kicked him and knocked him unconscious." Sarutobi was stunned. "Impossible, wait, where did he get the kick?" "Naruto kick that could have knocked Mizuki unconscious." Iruka made a face. "Naruto kicked him in the balls, he's in the hospital now. I do not know if he was seriously injured, but according to my experience, knocking out someone like Mizuki with a single kick requires an incredible amount of chakra to generate the necessary strength. It reminded me of the stories you used to tell me about Tsunade," Sarutobi interrupted. "Thank you, stand down," Sarutobi said. He waited for Iruka to leave, sealed the room with a sound, and burst out laughing. He was one of the few people aware of how Mizuki felt about Naruto. "I saw him as the reborn Kyuubi, not as a person who contained the Demon Lord." Chapter 02, Deadly Target. Naruto sat at his desk with a big smile on his face. When he arrived that morning, everyone looked at him, many children even stepped aside respectfully. Even the older ones. The look everyone gave him wasn't the same hatred he was used to. He wasn't sure what it was, but he liked it. He was the center of attention, but for a different reason this time. Kissing all the girls yesterday had been fun, most of them didn't like it. Some didn't seem to mind, and few seemed to like it afterwards. However, one girl stood out, and Mata Yuga. She was the last one in line to kiss him. She had fainted 4 times trying to kiss him, and finally she did it with Iruka-sensei holding her. Then she fainted again. He thought it was very funny, but for some reason he couldn't laugh at her, It was as if someone was holding him back. When Iruka-sensei walked in, she immediately saw him look directly at him and smile. Iruka grabbed his clipboard and stood in front of his desk. "Hello everyone, we have a new student. He should have started last year, but he couldn't for personal reasons. Please come in," Iruka said as he turned towards the door and waited for a moment for her to enter. "Everyone, please say hello to Tenten." Naruto saw her enter, and as he did, his eyes popped out of their sockets. Naruto was the smallest in his class, but the new one, Tenten, was even shorter than him, and a year older. He had his black hair up in little buns at the sides, a dark blue shirt, black pants and sandals. She looked around and when she saw him, she seemed to get angry with him, although he had no idea why, because he had just met her. "Tenten, please take a seat," Iruka said. Tenten made a polite bow to Iruka and made his way to the only empty seat, but all the way. He stared at the little blonde boy with the 3 marks on each cheek. "Lunch, Academy Cafeteria. Here's your Ishiraku ramen, Naruto-sama," Sasuke said politely as he placed the one-room white box in front of Naruto. But it was obvious that he was very angry. "Can I have lunch now, Naruto-sama?" Sasuke said politely, gritting his teeth. Naruto laughed. "Thank you, Sasuke is afraid, I'm retiring," Naruto said matter-of-factly and waved his hand. He had seen the old man do that many times and practiced imitating him until he did it perfectly. Sasuke gave Naruto a polite and forced bow and walked away. He gritted his teeth angrily at the sound of Naruto's laughter. Behind his back, he wanted to use his fireball jutsu against Naruto, but he didn't, not because of the academy, but because of his parents. His father could only kill him for breaking his word, like Shinobi Uchiha. His mother would do something much worse. She would get that look of total disappointment, she just couldn't stand it. And even once he saw his father humiliated by an almost identical look. She assumed that it must be some special jutsu that was taught to women at the academy, because only women and kunoichi used it. Naruto had just sunk his teeth into his ramen when 2 chopsticks went through the box. Everyone was paralyzed and turned to look. Naruto had a mouthful of noodles, half of which were hanging off of him. 15 meters away, on the other side of the cafe, there was a very angry little brunette, with her right arm still outstretched from the throw. Naruto sipped his ramen and swallowed it with an audible glut as he watched her cross the room towards him. That lunch period was used by all grades, and when Tenten crossed, even the seniors, who were twice his size, got out of his way. No one noticed that the kunoichi on duty was walking away or coming back just before Tenten got to Naruto. She had a guest standing behind her, hidden from the students. She rubbed her nose full of scars. "Hi, Tenten, is something wrong?" Naruto said nervously and gave him a big friendly smile. "Do you think you're better than me with the kunai?" Tenten asked angrily. Naruto thought for a moment, shrugged his shoulders, and said what he hoped was the right thing to do. "Maybe, I've never seen you use them. Today, gun class, shooting range, I challenge you to a competition to decide once and for all who has the best aim." Tenten exclaimed loudly, snatching the chopsticks from Naruto, spinning them at full speed in his right hand, and, without even looking at them, threw them. They both stuck into the center of a piece of barbecue pork that Chuji had on his chopsticks, ready to bite. It was 10 meters away. Tenten turned around and stormed out of the cafeteria. "I'll have to assign a bodyguard if this keeps up," Iruka said as he gently shook his head, and then disappeared. "And I thought that doing her this favor was going to be boring," Anko whispered to herself after her eng, and smiled. Weapon class, outdoor shooting range. While listening to Iruka-sensei ask Tenten if she was sure she wanted to bet, she thought about what happened. Lately he had heard a very quiet voice in his head that had given him ideas for betting and other things, but he thought it was normal. Besides, everything had turned out well for him, and now he had just found out that Tenten's father owned the best armory in Konoha. Her little voice had suggested that he bet, and Tenten accepted immediately. "I'm ready, Iruka-sensei, who starts?" "Since standard objectives won't solve this, you see, I have 10 small objectives placed around. From the countryside. Both will receive 10 kunai. You will have 1 minute to go through the route that I prepared for you, since you made the challenge to Tenten." "I'll let Naruto decide who starts," Iruka said, and then looked at Naruto. "It's okay, Tenten can go first," Naruto said. Iruka arched his eyebrows subtly when Naruto said yes, as if someone had said something to him. I had a feeling I knew who he was. As long as he didn't see red chakra, he would let anything Naruto said or did pass, as long as no one was in danger. And didn't try to escape. Ready, try. Iruka pulled out a stopwatch. All ready, he said as he marked it. He saw her running around the circuit, at an impressive speed for her size and age, and she threw her crib, and with a lot of dexterity. Which did not surprise him considering who her parents were. He marked it as he crossed the line. 42.34 seconds, impressive, Iruka told you, and then he walked around the circuit. Took off the cradle and wrote down his score. Mom, looks like you scored a 9.9, Tenten. Your last hit was a millimeter to the left. The wind blew my lens away, it was right in the center, it's not fair. Tenten shouted. Iruka could tell it in his voice. She had scored higher than most of the high-level chunin, and she was actually disgusted with her performance. She's a perfectionist. His file was correct. His entire identity lies in his almost perfect aim with throwing weapons. If Naruto beats her, I hope it won't ruin her mood. She will be an excellent kunoichi and weapons master one day, Iruka thought. I'm sorry, Tenten, it's your turn, Naruto, Iruka said, and as he picked up the Tenkune. He felt the same subtle surge of chakra he felt yesterday. If Naruto is the kind of person I think he is, if he hurts her, he'll make up for it somehow, I hope, Iruka thought. Naruto got his crib ready and let's go, Iruka said as he set the stopwatch. He watched Naruto carefully as he ran at full speed. He didn't even look at the targets, he just threw his crib, and as he passed by. As before, he did not aim, but hit the target by pure luck. It was almost like a blood limit. I couldn't believe it even while watching it. He looked at his watch and knew that he had easily surpassed her. When Naruto crossed the line, he stopped him. 30 seconds exactly. I'll be right back, Iruka said, and ran to check his aim and pick up the crib. When he reached the last goal, he knew it was over before he even got close. Like the front nine, this one was deadlocked. In fact, the front nine was on the same hole that he had made the cradle and of Tenten. He pulled himself together and returned to the anxious children, two in particular. Naruto's score was perfect, he said almost nervously. As soon as he started to say perfect, he saw Tenten's face. Behind his eyes, his self-esteem plummeted like lightning. I lost. Tenten moaned pathetically, as her eyes filled with tears. Iruka watched carefully. He saw that his emotional mask was about to break, but before he could act, it happened. Tenten was paralyzed, her whole body rigid. Don't cry, Tenten, you're much better than me. Me, I was just lucky, Naruto said as he hugged her. Do you like ramen? After the academy, I will take you to eat as much as you want, and we will be even, what do you think? Sasuke invites you, Naruto said cheerfully, and then, for a reason that even he didn't understand, he kissed her on the cheek, close to the front, and Mata moaned silently at seeing him kiss her, but it had been on the cheek, not on the lips. I still had hope. Sasuke clenched his fists and jaw, but did not react in any other way. Tenten was stunned. She stood there for a moment, staring at him. I love ramen, thank you Naruto-kun, Tenten said almost sheepishly. When he kissed her, all her pain vanished almost instantly, replaced by something that made her happy. He turned suddenly, facing the crowd. From now on, anyone who tries to mess with Naruto-kun will have to go through me first. Tenten exclaimed. Well, damn it, how the hell did he do that? Iruka thought, very funny, but he kept it hidden. Naruto-kun, after lunch I'll take you to the family shop to get your new weapons. I hope Dad will leave me anyway, he said. They were tempted to realize that he had staked him free guns from his father's store without permission. Sure, Tenten-chan, Naruto said cheerfully, and then turned towards the crowd upon hearing an almost shrill voice. He looked around and saw that his face was red. Did you say something, and Mata-chan? He asked. Naruto with indifference, not realizing that he had unintentionally called her Chan. Hinata suddenly raised her head and turned as red as a tomato. She called me Hinata-chan, she thought to herself, and nodded instinctively. Can I join you for lunch ramen? She stammered inately with difficulty. She had never been so nervous in her life. Naruto smiled happily. I had just made 2 friends in one day. Of course you can, Hinata-chan. Naruto exclaimed. Iruka looked at Hinata and saw it in her eyes. She loves him, but she's embarrassed to tell him. Oops, if Naruto hugs Hinata, her blood pressure might kill her, Iruka thought. Everyone inside, except you, Naruto. You will help me clean up, Iruka said. Naruto groaned and pouted for a moment, then nodded. Hi, Iruka-sensei. I can stay and help Naruto-kun clean up. Tenten said hopefully. I think we can handle this, Tenten. But you can take the cribs and put them away for me. I know I can trust you with the school's belongings. With the extras, they are too much for one person, Mom and Cream. Could you help Tenten, please? Iruka said. And Nada calmed down and made a slight bow. Hi, Iruka-sensei. And Nada smiled at Tenten and quickly helped her to load the crib and into the box with the others and to carry her inside. That should motivate them to talk. If only it would open up and Nada could be an outstanding student. He lacks confidence, Tenten doesn't, and they both need friends. Now I just need to chat with Naruto for a while, Iruka thought. 2:20 p.m. and Chiraku ramen. So that's 6 beef ramen for you, Naruto-kun, 1 pork ramen for you, Tenten-chan, and 1 miso ramen for you, and Mata-chan, said the 16-year-old girl, smiling mischievously at Naruto, and then turned to the stove. Why haven't you brought your friends earlier, Naruto-kun? He asked her playfully. He heard a thud, turned suddenly to them and gasped. Naruto stared at the ground in surprise. Tenten was red as a tomato and couldn't see Hinata. She ran back to the counter and looked at him, and Nada was unconscious on the floor, her face red as neon. Oh, Kami, I'm sorry, she exclaimed to Iami and ran to help Hinata as her father came out of the back. Naruto, 8 years old, 2:38 p.m. and Chirikiraman. Sakura Aruno sat on the stool next to her friend trying to become invisible. To Sakura's left sat a furious Inoue Manaka. I still can't believe you did this to my forehead. How could you make that bet with Naruto? You ruined my reputation. Look at us. Hino shouted, jumped off the stool, and took a turn. Thanks to you, we have to wear these horrible orange jumpsuits for a week. Sasuke-kun will never look at me again, and you, Hino said, shaking his head, and returning to his stool. No, I really didn't think he knew the answer, Sakura said weakly, hoping she hadn't lost her best friend. And Mata quietly sat down on his usual stool to Naruto's right and ate his miso ramen, but inside he was bursting with laughter. However, I didn't understand what the problem was. He thought orange was a good color, especially for his best friend and crush, Naruto. He looked at Tenten, who was laughing uncontrollably. Tenten, who was already 9 years old, did not understand what all the fuss was about. I thought they looked good in orange jumpsuits, and Naruto did. He could barely eat his pork ramen from laughing. 23:56, that night, Naruto's apartment. Naruto took off the threadbare and worn blanket, got out of bed in his orange pajamas, and scratched his head. Stupid cat, screeching all night, said Naruto annoyed. He reached between the head of his bed and the wall into a hole and pulled out an old, slightly rusty, but newly sharpened crib. She had some new ones from Tenten, but this was the first one and her favorite. I'm going to kill that stupid cat this time, Naruto said with a big, slightly dark, sly smile. If he had looked at the side of the kunai, he would have seen his eyes redden for an instant as he said it. Naruto went to his window, deactivated the alarm he had recently set to prevent people from coming in to destroy everything again. Checked that there were no Moors on the coast and went out, kunai in hand. I had chased him dozens of times for the past 6 months and memorized their patterns and hiding places. He crept stealthily through the alley and the side streets. By his singing he knew where he was, and he had a plan. He would use what he had learned at the academy and sneak up from behind. He had tried the direct attack a dozen times after he first appeared, but no matter how fast he was, that stupid gray cat was faster. Okay, Tora, I got you this time, and you won't, Naruto thought as he crossed the rooftop to the edge for the kill attack from above. Then stopped when he saw something unusual. I was used to seeing the occasional Hamburg blurring through the rooftops or a shinobi on the street patrolling. But this person sneaking through the shadows had a big bag over his shoulder, and he had a strange shape. Then he saw her moving. He's kidnapping someone, Naruto thought. Then for some reason, The direction where the man was coming from bothered him, so he turned and looked. It only took him a moment to realize who lived at that address that was worth kidnapping. "He has Imada-chan," Naruto whispered, not realizing that his voice had changed or that his eyes had turned loose red as blood, and now they had vertical pupils. More than 200 meters away, the lightning ninja stopped half a step when he felt it, a sudden peak of chakra. Filled with a more raw hatred than even he could imagine, he turned and nervously scanned the area. No human has such a strong chakra, or has so much hate. He has to be a Hinchuriki, damn. Why didn't they tell me Konoha had a Hinchuriki? I'd better get out of here, he thought, then he dropped the sack and shouted in a very high-pitched voice. It had come faster than even he could react like June. And buried himself in her crotch. He fell to the ground groaning, unable to even concentrate enough to use his chakra. In the 20 years I had been a child, I had been injured many times, but I had never been hit there by a gun. The next thing he knew, someone grabbed him from his neck and lifted him up to his knees, where he met the slanted, blood-red eyes of a small blonde, who had his fist raised to attack. The red chakra was gathering around his fist, almost like armor, as it slowly covered his body. He took a look behind the Hinchuri, Kiki, visibly enraged, and saw a fox tail forming from the red chakra. He instantly knew what demon was imprisoned in the blonde boy. "Kyubi no Kitsune," he said, terrified. He could handle most of the shinobi, even the Hounen, but the Kyubi was so over the top from him that he knew any attempt would be futile. "I'm glad they haven't forgotten me," Kyubi said through Naruto, whom he had surprised for keeping these memories from him for now. "Now, you mortal scum, you will burn in the flames of hell," Kyubi exclaimed as his raised fist burst into red flames. "Set him free, Kyubi-sama. Let us take care of this," a voice behind Kyubi said, calmly but a little nervously. Still in control, Kyubi threw the lightning ninja face down to the ground with enough force to knock him unconscious, and turned around. Still wearing his one-tailed chakra cloak, he saw 6 Ambas, the 3 masked Ambas from 3 years ago in the alley, and the Yuga twins, Yasi and Zasi, who were staring at the still unconscious Inada, whose head and right arm were hanging outside the sack, with his Yakugan activated. Kyubi was very angry, but still in control. "I didn't want to do it, but I had to give control back to Naruto. I didn't want another visit from him, or worse. Naruto is not aware of my presence in him. For now, they'll keep it that way. Tell him about me before he's ready, and I'll skin them alive," Kyubi said menacingly. "I didn't want them to know I was bluffing." Then, he removed all his chakra, and Naruto returned to normal. At that moment, Naruto fell forward, unconscious. Kakashi crossed the 3 meters in an instant and caught him. "And so, Zasi, take Inada home. Anko, assume, take him to Ibiki. The 6 of you take Naruto home, and keep watch out of sight. I will report this to Lokage-sama. If anyone asks, this is an East rank secret 4 now, retired," Kakashi said. He handed Naruto to the Ambo, and then disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves. Yasi picked up Inada, and now, except for her brother, they were the only ones still there. "He was Cloud's diplomat," Yasi said. And Zasi sighed and nodded. "Yes. I also noticed that he was not the same Kyubi who attacked us 6 years ago. He was protecting Inada." He's already nodded. "That's the second time I owe you, Izasi. First I allowed him to visit Inada, and he tripped up a member of the branch who was bringing Anna a poisoned tea that would have killed her. And now he saved my daughter thanks to the devil. I must admit that I was wrong about them, especially with Naruto, and I have disgraced the memory of my friend. I will compensate your son no matter what it costs," Yasi said quietly to his twin, and then ran to the Yoruga complex. 1,000 thoughts came over him, thinking about what had just happened, and what he would say to Inada tomorrow, and what he would say to Anna when he returned. And Zasi was following him closely. Chapter 03. Future Plans. Naruto, 8 years old, 1631, Yoruga complex. Since he had helped save Inada-chan 2 months ago, he still had no idea how, although any adult he asked would tell. "I'll tell you when you're older," he didn't like it, but as long as Inada-chan was fine, he didn't care. As he sat and watched Inada train with Meiji at the outdoor training ground, he had to smile. Inada was the best kunoichi in the academy. She hadn't stuttered in almost 3 weeks. She had made friends with Sasuke, although they were rivals now too. I found him. I loved finally having someone to train with. He had dozens of friends now, at least at the academy. And the adult ninjas and Kunoichi would give him a friendly smile, nod or wave when he saw them around the village. Most of the villagers still looked at him with hatred, for some reason he still couldn't. They understand, but some had changed their minds. However, better than everything else, was that Inada's father and uncle had bought her a small house near the Yoruga complex. It wasn't much bigger than his apartment, but it was clean, and it was all his. I didn't have to pay rent. I was no longer receiving money from the old man, but they had also solved it. He now had a bank account that, if he was careful as he had been taught, would last him until graduation, and he could earn his own money. They said it was the least they could do to save Inada. I just knew that, if it wasn't for him, that man would have run away with Inada, and they would never have seen her again. "Come on, Naruto, you need to get washed and dressed if you want to come to dinner with us," Yashi said as he approached Naruto. Naruto turned to him and smiled. "Hello, Yashi-sama," Naruto said. He jumped off the bench, took a bow, and ran out to the men's restrooms in the main house. Yashi smiled at the sniff and the behind his back and turned around. "Hi Anna-chan, how is little Anna-bichan doing?" Anna smiled warmly at her husband as she held her sleeping 3-year-old daughter on her shoulder. She fell asleep watching Inada-chan train with Meiji. She said she was very proud that her Nechen was so strong now. Before she went out, I guess she was tired from training. She wants to be like Inada when she was older, Anna said with a warm smile. She then activated her Yakugan for a moment to make sure Naruto or any other children weren't around to hear her. Her face turned serious, something unusual for her inside the complex. Has he appeared since the attempted kidnapping of Inada-chan? Her face took on its familiar impassivity. I have watched him here, and he has made our Hounen watch him. Even when he gets beaten training with the Uchiha, there has been no problem. I have talked about it with Saruto Bisama and the other clan bosses. We all agree that, for some unknown reason, it has changed. Even when he threatened us that night, he was full of anger, but there was no hatred or bad intention in saying it. Anna smiled and relaxed. And what about that amazing luck you have? I've never seen anything like it. I've watched him. It's not just about throwing things, it happens to him in any game he plays, or anything he wants to do. It seems almost, there is no other way to put it, it seems to change the fate for. That suits him, but I don't think he's aware of it, he just thinks he's very lucky. He already nodded and smiled smugly. Have you heard about his dream? No, I haven't spent as much time with him as I would like because of Anna-bichan, but he will be playing with other children soon, Anna said. He wants to be the next Hokage, Yashi said. Then he saw a twinkle in his wife's eyes that he hadn't seen in a long time, and sighed. Come on, Yashi-kun, you know that Inada loves him, and we both know that with his luck, he will be Hokage one day. They would be a perfect match, not to mention what it would mean for the clan to have our son-in-law as Hokage, Anna said cheerfully. Showing him her best pleading expression, leaning slightly forward so that the top of her kimono would open up just enough to let him see her huge breasts. It was a bad thing to use her outside the bedroom, where she would have to get revenge that night, but it was worth it. Yasi stood her ground until she saw her kimono. She just couldn't resist those big pale breasts. When, Anna? I'll do the paperwork later, and I'll take it to Saruto Bisama tomorrow, Yasi said, and thought for a moment. They would be honored to know that you want your son to marry Inada. I miss them too. Anna smiled, kissed Yasi, and then called her personal maid, an older woman from the cadet branch, and handed Anab to her. Please put Anab to bed, he won't join us for dinner. Make sure Naruto-kun is ready, and in the dining room, by 5 o'clock this time, Anna said with a subtle smile, and nodded to the woman. The woman took Anna and smiled subtly, then nodded and left. Naruto, 9 years old, after sunset. Naruto loved the night. He could go out and explore Konoha without having to deal with anyone. Except with the occasional shinobi who was on patrol or ambo, although he never stopped even to greet him, with one exception. It had started 10 months ago by accident, but it had become a regular thing. Once a week, I went there just after sunset. He landed on the roof, listened carefully and waited for the subtle sound. Suddenly he turned around, caught the crib, and that it had been thrown to him, and smiled happily. All the special training he had received in the past year, especially from his new father and adoptive uncle, had increased his power by leaps and bounds, although he hid most of what I could do now at the academy. The Ambo came out of the shadows and lifted the mask. Damn it, brat. How the hell do you do that? You're not even a genin, but not only can you spot me when no one else can, but you can catch my crib, and with your hands. Naked. She said, annoyed, but very impressed. He had mastered everything I had taught him in the last 10 months in a matter of days. He knew how lucky he was, but in 4 years, especially the last one, he had become as strong as her, or even stronger. It has to be the fox's doing, there's no other explanation for it being so damn strong. It's a secret, Anko-chan, you know we don't tell our secrets. You lost again, I'm waiting for you, Naruto said, and he gave her a big smile, almost perverted. Anko pouted very Naruto style. Come on, brat, how the hell did you make me make that damn bet? It's something I don't understand, but Anko Mitari always pays his debts. I'm sure you're a 9-year-old girl, and almost in disguise. That pervert would do anything to see what you are about to do, again, Anko said, a little embarrassed, but amused. Naruto smiled and shook his head. You're the only Ambo I talk to, Anko-chan. I swear, if you ever tell anyone that I submit like that, I will feed you to my snakes, Anko said seriously, and then sighed. I can't believe I'm showing this lucky guy her tits again. Like hell, a 9-year-old brat grabbed the toughest and scariest slut in Konoha by the short hairs. I doubt I'll ever know, but I'll try. At least he's not older. If he was, I'd probably be on my knees sucking his dick, or more. Who am I kidding? When he's older, he'll probably make me his sex toy anyway, at least he's cute, he'll be a stud when he's older. Well, he better see my tits, than go around spying on women like that old pervert does, Anko thought, and grabbed the bottom of her t-shirt. She had stopped wearing a bra months ago, when she accepted that she was never going to win. I was just in his way. She had barely tucked it up to the base of her semi-firm breasts when she saw him raise his hand for her to stop. When he saw that his big smile was turning serious, he knew that something was wrong. He was never wrong. What's up, Naruto? Anko asked a little anxiously. I heard a scream, like someone had been stabbed or something, Naruto said seriously, as he turned his head from side to side looking for the direction. I didn't hear anything, but I trust your senses, you've never been wrong, Anko said while looking for his Ambu communicator. Before I order an Ambu attack, show me where it's coming from. I'm in charge, but you have better judgment, come on, Naruto. Anko said, put the mask back on and jumped off the roof after Naruto. As she followed him, she quickly realized where they always ended up. It's Sasuke's family, Naruto said in a shaky voice. I hear them from inside. Someone is killing everyone. He's an asshole, but he's still my friend, and no one is going to hurt them. Naruto exclaimed fiercely and jumped the wall surrounding the Uchiha complex. Damn it, Naruto, wait you fucking hothead. Anko turned on his communicator. This is Venom, code Red 2, Uchiha compound. Anko said quickly but clearly, and followed Naruto over the wall to help him. 2 minutes later, composed Uchiha. Naruto ran down the hallways to the main rooms where Sasuke and his parents were. If he hadn't been there several times, he would have gotten lost trying to find them all. He had already found the Uchiha elders, and many of the Hounen who made up the Konoha police, all dead. He was disgusted to see it. Not only had they been killed, but they had been slaughtered like animals. Many had been decapitated or cut open in a canal. She heard screams and recognized Mikoto, Sasuke's mother. Mikoto knelt on the ground while hugging the unconscious Sasuke with protective gesture. Tears were streaming from her eyes with Sharingan. She was a jounin, but she knew that fighting was useless. Her husband was much stronger than her, and the man in front of her had easily decapitated him and was now standing over her. Bloody sword held high. Why Itachi-kun? Mikoto asked in a low voice, with extreme sadness and confusion. He closed his eyes and waited for the death blow. Then a crash was heard, the sound of wood breaking, and a surge of chakra hit her so full of rage and power that it knocked her unconscious. A minute later, Anko jumped through the hole in the wall that he knew must be Naruto's, with a cradle and in each hand. just in time to see a face that he hoped he would never have to see again, and instantly filled with a rage, almost blinding. Orochimaru! Anko screamed with every ounce of rage she had contained for years. Orochimaru gave a snake-like smile to Anko as he took a kunai off his shoulder. Another time, Anko-chan, I'll see you, boy, you're very interesting, Orochimaru said, and melted on the ground. Before Anko's kunai impacted the ground moments before his fists. You fucking snake bastard, I'll kill you. Anko roared in rage as she pounced on him after throwing her crib at him, and at that moment, 20 and, led by Kakas and Yasuma, appeared in the room. They saw 6 people. An enraged Anko on her knees hitting the ground for Uchiha, an unconscious Mikoto, and her son Sasuke. The decapitated corpse of her husband Bara's sister, and an unconscious Itachi, who seemed to have received a brutal beating, and, for his surprise and fear, to Naruto, with a red two-tailed chakra cloak. Kakashi took a step forward as he lifted his itate to reveal his Sharingan eye. Did you do this? I didn't kill Lucia, Anko-chan will explain. Said Kyugi. He withdrew all his chakra, and the unconscious Naruto fell forward. Kakashi caught Naruto, and turned to Anko, now calmer, surprised. Anko-chan. Kakashi repeated with an empty look how Kirubi had called her. Anko got up, pulled himself together as best he could and nodded. I'll explain everything later. It was Orochimaru and Itachi, but I don't know if he was a partner or a puppet. And right now I don't care. I'll talk to the old man tomorrow. I'm going home right now, Kakashi. If anyone tries to stop me, I swear I'll break him. Anko said with quiet sadness and anger, and then he calmly left and headed home. Kakashi had only seen Anko like this once, and knew he shouldn't mess with her until he calmed down and cleared up his feelings. Let her go, call for backup, and take the survivors to the hospital. He takes Itachi to the maximum security wing for treatment. I'll take Naruto home and stay with him. Give Anko a few minutes and then tell him to go to Naruto's house on Lokage-sama's orders. Tell Lokage-sama to meet me at Naruto's house immediately. Leave. Everyone did as they were told. Kakashi disappeared with Naruto in a swirl of wind and leaves. 58 minutes later, Naruto's house. That's it, Kakashi, Anko. Sarutobi said calmly. Kakashi nodded. Hello, Anko said. Sarutobi turned to the being on the bed. I have to inform Naruto. If my former student seeks your power, Naruto must know you and train him properly. If you couldn't defeat him with 2 tails, you must be stronger, Sarutobi said and sighed. Orochimaru is relentless, and now that he knows about you, he will be prepared for the next time. Naruto, with red eyes, sighed, slightly annoyed. I don't like this. I would have preferred another year, but I have no other choice. 2 tails were not enough to kill him, only to injure him. To kill him, and make sure he never comes back, I'll need 5 tails. I will not allow that bastard to use Naruto or get anything from my power. Kyugi, controlling Naruto's body, got up from the bed, walked over to Anko, and put his left hand gently on his cheek. Kakashi's visible eyebrow slightly raised at the gesture of more than just friends. Anko-chan, I know I speak for Naruto in this too. We won't let him hurt you again. We will kill him for you, Kyubi said in an affectionate, but still demonic voice. He slid his left hand behind her head, between her ruffled purple hair, and his right, under her shirt. Gently squeezed her left breast as he pulled her down to kiss her passionately. You are as special to us as Inada-chan, and once I have joined her, we will give you the happiness that has been denied to you. Kyugi said, released the stunned Anko, lay down on the bed, and contained all her chakra. Anko, you and Nar. Kakashi said, and then froze. Anko had a cradle and in his throat, and a big grimace on his face. Say one more word, Cyclops, or tell someone, especially Naruto, what just happened between Kyubi and me. And I swear I will kill you and feed my snakes with your remains, Anko said in her coldest voice. Not that it's any of your business, but what just happened is the furthest Kyubi has come. Naruto has only kissed me a couple of times as a friend. It turns out I like that brat, because he understands what I've been through. I respect you as a ninja and my superior, but as a man, you are losing ground fast. Kakashi nodded carefully. I've never seen Anko like this before, but I knew her well enough to know when she wasn't showing off. Sorry, Anko, I crossed the line. I don't know him as well as you do. Anko, please calm down. I am aware of your friendship with Naruto and what you have been doing. I am glad that they are just friends, but they will also tell him that he is engaged to Hinata Yuga, as they will tell her. Since you know Orochimaru better than anyone and can feel it, I'm reassigning you from Lambu to be Naruto's personal bodyguard until I can use at least 5 tails. This will keep you close to him and Hinata, and he will continue his training when he is not with anyone else. And please, put away your crib, and Anko, Sarutobi said calmly. Anko put away her crib and smiled at Sarutobi. I accept, and thank you, Anko said and bowed. Anko, come to my office tomorrow at 8 with Naruto. I'll tell you everything then. Anko, you can stay here to watch him tonight. Kakashi, don't talk about this with anyone. You can withdraw, Sarutobi said and gave them a slight nod. Kakashi nodded at Sarutobi. If you mind having me around, I'll get to know him personally, Kakashi said and waited for a moment. When Anko nodded, she disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves. Anko pounced on him and gave his surrogate father a quick hug and a kiss on the cheek. Thanks, man. Sarutobi smiled. Anko was the only person allowed to call him old, but unlike Naruto, she didn't do it in front of anyone. Give him a chance, Anko, you know what he's lost. Cool, as long as Naruto doesn't mind having him around. Anko said and sighed. Sarutobi smiled and disappeared. Anko pulled up a chair and sat down by the bed to keep an eye on Naruto. 8:14, the next morning, Okage Tower. Sarutobi looked at Naruto, who barely had tears in his eyes. I had taken it better than expected, although there were some tense moments. Are you okay, Naruto? Sarutobi asked in a warm fatherly voice. Naruto wiped his tears with his sleeve. And he pulled himself together. Hey, I'll be fine, man. At least now I know why everyone hated me and why I have so much chakra. And did you know that all along, Anko-chan? Anko sobbed nervously. Hey, I couldn't tell you, but I'm sorry for lying to you like that, Naruto-kun, I can still call you. Right. If you prefer someone else to protect you. Naruto smiled warmly at him. Of course you can, Anko-chan, and I would love to have you around. At least now I can introduce you to Hinata-chan, Naruto said and opened his eyes wide. Will I really marry Hinata-chan one day? Naruto asked Sarutobi. Hi, your parents are telling you as we speak. There's one more thing. Although they will legally be of legal age when they get their Ida and Id, they will not be able to get married until they are both 15 years old, which means that they must wait at least 6 years. Promise me that you will wait until then before doing anything with Hinata or anyone else, Sarutobi said in a stern and fatherly voice. Do whatever, or those things. Cool, I promise, Naruto said firmly. Sarutobi smiled. Well, I know you never break a promise, Naruto. Before you leave, I'm going to arrange for a special sensei to teach you how to use the Kyuubi chakra. Remember that only your parents, your teachers and the Jounin know that the Kyuubi is sealed inside you, Naruto. For safety, I would prefer you not to tell anyone, but if you must do it, or you think they can handle him. Hello, you can tell your friends, just make sure they can handle it, not everyone may understand. Remember, you are the jailer, not the prisoner. Make sure they understand. Stand down. Naruto nodded, turned and walked out of the office, with Anko right behind him. Sarutobi took out his pipe, lit it, took a puff and chuckled. You can come in now, Jiraiya. I could never hide from your Sarutobi-sensei, Jiraiya said as he entered through the window. So that's your son, huh? It looks like him. Why didn't you tell her who her father was? Jiraiya asked. Sarutobi sighed. I will. When he turns 16, we will tell him, and he will inherit the Namikaze estates. Until then, you won't tell her. Cool, I guess you want me to keep an eye on Orochimaru, Jiraiya said seriously. Hi, and give Naruto a couple of hours to talk to Hinata. Before I saw him, said Sarutobi, taking a puff at his pipe. Before you go, do you have a copy of the latest issue? Jiraiya let out a short perverted giggle, took the little book out of his vest pocket, and handed it to her. Hey, your first signed copy won't be out for another week. Anything for my old sensei, Jiraiya said and disappeared. Chapter 04, 7 of Luck. Naruto 12 years old, 1942, Academy. Naruto Uzumaki, Iruka said from the doorway with a mocking smile. He was one of the few people in the academy who knew. That was Naruto. He knew how much his favorite student held back to surpass Sasuke Uchiha as the best student, not only among the boys, but among everyone. As Naruto headed to his final exam, he knew it was just a formality, but he had to do it. Although she was not always close, where everyone could see her. He was the only person in the room who knew that Anko was outside, in a tree, watching through the window. He looked subtly out the window and nodded. "I'm ready, Iruka-sensei. Let's go in and get my Ida and Ite," Naruto exclaimed with his usual enthusiasm. He greeted the class and followed Iruka into the classroom. And he didn't see Naruto enter the exam room and the door close behind him. She adjusted the purple sleeveless t-shirt over her voluminous breasts, like her mother, which she had developed since childhood, and loved to show off her body. He had one of his usual ideas and stood up. "Who wants to bet that Naruto doesn't pass? If you don't approve, I'll show you my breasts," Hino said cheekily and smiled. He waited while watching the room. He looked at the always excited Kiba and smiled even more when he shook his head. Even he wouldn't take the bet. Hino pouted sadly and sat down. He didn't show it, but inside he was bursting with laughter. He loved making fun of guys like that. Sakura slouched slightly forward in her seat to hide her small chest. She was one of the smartest students in the academy, but she would be the dumbest if she could have big breasts instead of a wide forehead. "I may not be one of the bustier girls like you, and I don't so, but thanks to Naruto-kun I'm the strongest," Sakura thought and straightened up. A minute later, the door opened, and Naruto walked out with a big smile on his face and a shiny new leaf itate on his forehead. "Congratulations, Naruto-kun," they said in unison, and Nata, Tenten, Sakura and Hino looked at each other for a moment and then burst into laughter. "Thanks, girls, it was easy," Naruto exclaimed and gave them all his characteristic fox smile. Iruka chuckled at his antics. Hino Yamanaka. Hino stood there with a big smile. She was the last one to leave, but she knew what would happen. Everyone else already had their Ida and Ite, there was no way I was going to fail. Naruto returned to his seat, but before sitting down, he sat down at the table behind him with his hands and bent down to receive a kiss from his girlfriend and fiancée, Hinata. "Thank you, Hinata-chan," Naruto said, and let himself fall to the ground. "I knew you would, Naruto-kun," Hinata said cheerfully as she heard all the girls in the class moaning under their breath, which made her smile. Laughing with joy because she was his girlfriend, and as far as most knew, the only girl he kissed because he wanted to. Most of the girls had only kissed Naruto that first day because of the bet. Everyone was chatting quietly for about 2 minutes when the door opened, and he didn't come out with his new itate strapped to his forehead. "Never doubt the diva," Hino exclaimed proudly and raised his arms with a gesture. "Sit down, Miss Diva, or you and your girls will come back to my class next year while your friends are on mission," Iruka said earnestly, then looked at Naruto and smiled subtly. She also knew, like everyone, that Hino used to refer to her breasts as his girls. Hino crossed his arms protectively over his chest, blushed intensely, ran to his seat, and collapsed under the table enough to hide his chest. Everyone was red from holding back their laughter so much when they saw Hino turn off completely. "Now that you've all passed and become genin, congratulations. As you know, we are assigning new teams this year, so don't make any noise while I tell you who your companions and the sensei will be," Iruka said with a slight smile. Naruto listened to Iruka read the team names. 1, 2, 3, he wondered who he would be paired with and who his friends would be. Although he knew everyone in the class, none of his close friends had been called up until Iruka made it to Team 6. Team 6 will consist of Tsuko Nagato, Chichikazumu, and Sasuke Uchiha. "Your sensei and its Kakashi Ataki," Iruka said. Naruto watched the first two stop and move close to Sasuke. Suku, or Toro, as his friends called him, was the biggest boy in the academy. His ninjutsu and genjutsu were good enough for him to pass, as were his grades. But with taijutsu it was as easy to stop as an avalanche. Chi-Chi was his opposite, she was strong where he was weak, and she was shy like Hinata used to be. He had met her through Hinata 2 years ago, and he was glad he did. She wanted to be a top medical ninja like her mother. They will be a good team. He is the muscle, she is smart and can heal. Sasuke is good at ninjutsu, weapons. He is the best fighter next to me and will probably activate his Sharingan soon, Naruto thought, and then subtly looked at another friend. At least Sasuke is in school. I wonder why the frown doesn't show anyone how good he really is, or that he uses those weights. Well, he has his reasons for keeping it a secret, and I promised him I wouldn't tell anyone. Naruto thought, and then turned and listened intently to Iruka when he started reading the names of Team 7. Especially since the first name really caught his attention, Hinata. Tenten and Naruto Uzumaki. Iruka said with a very restrained smile. The whole class fell silent upon hearing the third name, even all the jealous girls fell silent. They wanted to know who the sensei was that everyone knew would be the most powerful of all the teams. When she heard her name, Hinata's eyes glazed over, and her mind went back to when she was told that she was engaged to Naruto. Flashback scene. Hinata nervously entered her father's studio. Her mother was also there and could not interpret their faces. They only looked like this when they had something important, and sometimes bad, to say to her. She was used to her father saying that, even inside the complex, but seeing her mother like that scared her even more. The point of view of his parents. Before I tell you why you're here, I think it's necessary to have privacy, Anna said without emotion. And then made several signs with her hands. Seal. Now that no one will hear the screams, we can start. Anna said coldly, and looked subtly at Hinata, who was almost terrified. I'm sorry to put you through this, and Mata-chan, but Naruto-kun has infected me, and I couldn't resist, Anna thought. Yasuo almost lost his composure at what his wife had just said, but he knew that this would more than make up for it. As the head of the main family of the Yuga clan, it is my duty to inform you, Hinata Yuga, that you are engaged to Naruto Uzumaki. Here, and you will marry him when you turn 15. And Nata, head down, answered by reflex before what she had heard was fully processed in her mind. I'm sorry, father, I'll do better now. And Nata suddenly raised her head, her body tense, her mouth wide open, and her eyes white as plates. Me. Anna's smile was even bigger than Yasuo's from ear to ear. You are engaged to Naruto-kun and Nata-chan. When you turn 15, you will marry him. Anna watched her daughter's face for a whole minute before she started. He saw a smile of happiness slowly appear on Hinata's face, the likes of which even Kami had never seen. She pushed Yasuria felt subtly, before concentrating chakra in her ears to protect them from what she knew was coming. A moment later, it happened. He saw Hinata let out a scream of joy that would have made even the one I located tremble years ago when he attacked the village. He saw Hinata jump across the room, raising her arms and screaming almost at the top of her lungs from the happiness she felt. At that moment, he doubted that even the entire clan couldn't contain Hinata. I knew sealing the room with a sound seal was a good idea. End of the flashback. Your sensei is Anko Mitarashi, Iruka said, barely holding back his emotions. The whole room gasped, especially Naruto. It's okay. Naruto shouted excitedly as he jumped into his seat, fists in the air. Tall and a huge smile on his face. Iruka let out a laugh for a moment before pulling himself together. Please, sit down, Naruto. Naruto froze for a moment, looked around, and gave everyone an ops smile, and then sat down. Team 8 is Akura Runo, and not Yamanaka Shika. Marunara, your sensei is Kulina and Yui. Iruka said. Naruto looked at his friends. A team of spies will be useful. Sakura is happy to learn genjutsu with the best, and she's not surprised, but she doesn't seem upset. I guess she thought she was going to be put in a new Inoshikacho. And Shikamaru will be surrounded by women like his mother all day. Now he will never rest. Karena and Chan will encourage him to give his best. It will suit him. Naruto thought, and almost laughed at his lazy friend's situation. Team 9 consists of Nijiriuga, Rogel, and Chuji Akimichi, your sensei. I'm sorry to tell you, Iruka said with amused compassion. He's my Gui. Josh. Rogel shouted excitedly, and raised his fist in the air. Everyone else let out an exasperated sigh, lowered their gaze, and shook their heads. Everyone appreciated and respected Gui. He was a great person, but 5 minutes around him, and his speeches about the fire of youth, made you want to stick a cradle and on your neck and put an end to torture. Everyone knew that if he was around, the only hope was Kakashi, Gui's eternal rival, or Naruto, with one exception, Rogel, whom Gui did like and considered cool. However, no one reproached Lee for that. A taijutsu team, great. With Neji's Yakugan and Hyuken, Lee's speed and special abilities, and Chuji's expansion jutsu, will be amazing. He'll never be able to use a jutsu, but I'm glad they put in on a team this year. Neji also, I guess they're lucky that Gumi didn't let them take the Chun exams last year. And that the graduating class was an odd number because of Tenshin, Naruto thought. Since we had an odd number of students, 2 of you will have to wait. Until next year, I'm sorry. The 10th team consists of Shino Aburame, Kiba, and Nuzuka Y. Iruka said. There were only 3 children left, and 1 free place on the team. The new Kunoichi were not the shortest students, but they were close to being. Kiba looked at the 3 girls as Iruka started talking, one of whom was about to be his teammate, and frowned. Just fucking great, I'm going to get a bitch with a red afro, a pint-sized bully, or, Kiba thought, then smiled when her name was called. Fuki. I'm sorry, Arumi, Annie. Iruka said. Fuki squealed in surprise, and looked at her 2 lifelong friends in amazement. She never imagined that she would be chosen over them. I could walk across an empty room, and bump into something. She saw Kiba shrug his shoulders, give her a half smile, and wave at her. She almost smiled when she heard him tell Shino that at least he thought she looked pretty. She pulled up her scarf to disguise her rober, got up, crossed the room to sit next to Kiba, and bumped into 4 desks on the way. So nervous she was. Who is our sensei? Kiba shouted as he watched the girl with the huge scarf and jacket grope across the room. Probably Asuma, he's the only Hounen left, except for, Naruto thought, and then he had a feeling that Iruka wasn't going to say Asuma. Itachi Uchiha, Iruka said calmly, but inside he was nervous. He was one of the few who knew what had really happened that night, and although he had been an Orochimaru puppet, he had personally annihilated 3/4 of his clan, including his father. He knew that Itachi had been declared loyal and mentally stable by Hinoichi, Karena and Ibiki, although he had opposed the idea. He thought that if Sarutobi trusted him, it was enough for him. What? Sasuke said as he suddenly stood up and hit the table with both hands. Sit down, Sasuke, it's Lokugesima's idea. You can talk to Hitachi tonight at home, your mother has already been told, and she agrees. Before you ask, no, he cannot be transferred to his team. You and Itachi are the only active male Uchiha, and we can't risk putting you both on the same team, Iruka said seriously. Sasuke thought about it for a moment, nodded and sat down. I knew Iruka was right. This was the best thing for the clan. The only Uchiha-barons left were older or younger children who weren't even in the academy. Your sensei will be arriving soon to pick you up, please wait in this room, Iruka said. He ordered the papers on his desk, picked them up and left. Sasuke, Toro, Milk, better get like. Everyone, Kakashi won't be here for another 2 hours, Naruto said with a big smile. I had known him for the last 2 years, and had even learned a lot of great jutsus from him, privately. Only a few of his friends knew how strong he was, or about his special friend who always accompanied him. Sasuke wasn't one of them, he wanted to tell him, but he knew his friend wasn't ready for the truth yet. Almost, but not quite. -8:12. Naruto was talking to Hinata and Tenten, when he suddenly smiled, and turned towards the door. Anko brazenly broke in with a big sadistic big smile. I'm Anko Midarash, which one of you worms is mine? Let her have her moment, go along with her and fake bullying, Naruto whispered to Hinata and Tenten. They knew Anko almost as well as he did, and, deep down, they knew that Anko was as dumb as he was, even more so. Because he never had a real childhood. Naruto raised his hand. I'm Anko-sensei. And Mata and Tantena subtly felt, and did the same, but they seemed slightly intimidated. Anko smiled coldly. That's great, I understand Mr. Lucky and his fans. You're just another brat to me. So you and the bitches put on your batteries and follow me, Anko ordered. Then turned around and walked towards the door. Naruto waited until Anko was near the door. Is my sensei that crazy one? Naruto asked loudly enough for everyone to hear. At the door, Anko pulled out a crib and turned and threw it to Naruto. He dug into the chair an inch from his crotch. What was that, you little idiot? Naruto was surprised and jumped up with his best scared face. I'm sorry, Anko-sensei. Anko smiled cruelly and gave Naruto a nod. very subtle that the others would overlook as she listened to everyone laughing nervously. And the comments about how they were glad she wasn't their sensei. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I owe you one for that. Maybe the four of us will play poker tonight and I'll up the food stakes to something more fun, he thought. Anko, as he turned around and walked out of the classroom. -8:26 a.m., Training Camp 13. Naruto-kun and Nata, Tenten, between us, this final test is a waste of time. The three of you are already a team, but I have to do it as your sensei. Naruto, keep up your level. You know that in missions you can't show your true strength except in a real emergency, so think of this as just another practice, Anko said, pulling up the left sleeve of his trench coat, biting his right thumb, and smearing the blood on his snake tattoo. Invocation jutsu? Anko exclaimed. There was a huge puff of smoke 20 feet away, and when it dissipated a moment later, it revealed a huge coiled green snake that reared up to almost 20 feet and nodded its head towards Anko. Naruto and Mata and Tenten were impressed. That was the biggest snake, a great one that they had never seen her invoke. This is Lenirin. I rarely summon him, but he has a special ability that I can use here, Anko said, turning to Lenirin. Remember what I told you to do, Anko said, and then he took 3 blank labels out of his pocket, gave one to each of them, and so on. He felt his invocation. Lenirin began to turn his head and neck for an instant, and then split into 2 complete heads. An instant later, the main head repeated it. That was amazing. He has 3 heads now, Naruto exclaimed. Their mission is simple. Everyone must put their badge on one head, but they can only put their badge, and everyone must mark a different head. One more thing, they only have until 11, when I'm leaving for lunch. If you haven't all marked it, or if one of you gets knocked unconscious, you all fail, Anko said. He pulled a pocket watch out of his trench coat and waited for a moment. Let's get started. The moment Anko said it starts, Lenirin unrolled and ran towards the other end of the training ground. At an incredible speed for an almost 60-foot snake. He's fast, this will be harder than I thought, Tenten said impressed. Yeah, it'll be fun. And Mata-chan and I will distract him, while you surround Tenten-chan, and place your tag first. You must be fast enough to dodge his attacks long enough to get close, and that he does not hit you. Naruto said. I don't have to get any closer, I think I can nail one with one of my new darts. It will bounce, and the label will come off when it sticks to the tip. It's a tough shot, but I can do it, Tenten said. Fine, stay close, and Mata-chan, and I'll have him follow us to that big tree over there, Naruto said and pointed. Hide there and wait for your chance. Are you ready? And Mata nodded. Bye. Tenten nodded. Hello, and be careful you two. They nodded and ran across the training ground, Tenten to the side, Naruto and Jimata in the middle towards their goal. -10:38 a.m. And Mata had just jumped over Lenirin's head, and while he was face down, he used the speed of his hands to plant his relay. Landed and rolled away. As Imada rolled to safety, a dozen shurikens bounced off the left head of Lenirin, whom Imada had just touched. Here, face of scales, even with 3 heads you can't hit me. Naruto teased with a childish air and threw 6 shurikens at the center head that he had to touch. Suddenly, Naruto yawned and stretched out. I thought you were supposed to be tough. I better go eat something for all the challenge you pose, Naruto said, visibly bored, and turned his back on the giant snake. Naruto stood there for a moment, then he put his hand behind his back and scratched his butt with his right hand. Through his pants, of course. Just as he finished, he jumped up when a huge snake head passed by. Below him. He landed on her, saw that she hadn't touched and hit her. I got you, we won. Naruto exclaimed excitedly and punched the air. The 2 side heads came closer and both looked towards the top of the center head, then hung up in defeat sign. Broken. Congratulations, great teamwork, which was the real reason for all this. You could have failed to mark all 3 heads. What mattered was whether they worked as a team or not. I knew they would make it. Thank you, Lenirin. You can leave if you want, Anko said. Lenirin bowed all 3 heads and then disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Anko waited a minute for Hinata and Tenten to join Naruto. Well done, we are now officially Teen 7. It's on me for lunch, so where do you want to eat? As if he didn't already know, Anko said, and gave Naruto a familiar smile. Naruto gave Anko a sly smile. Ishiraku ramen. Hinata and Tenten laughed, and then whispered to each other for a moment. Naruto-kun, I'll make dinner at your house tonight. You can't eat only ramen, so I'm going to make rice with chicken and vegetables, and you're going to eat it, Hinata said. If you're cooking Hinata-chan, I'll eat it, Tenten-chan and Anko-chan. Anko-sensei come too. Naruto said. If you don't mind, I'd love to, can I bring dango for dessert? Anko said nervously. Of course you can, Anko-sensei, right, Hinata-chan, Tenten-chan. Naruto exclaimed. And Nada and Tenten nodded. Now that I'm your sensei, I didn't want to disturb. I also have a little entertainment planned for later, is that okay with you? Anko said. He waited for a moment and smiled when everyone nodded. Okay, let's go eat. Now that they're genin, it's time for Hinata and Tenten to learn. To play street poker, Anko thought. Chapter 05. Let's play 6:28 p.m., Naruto's place. I don't mind learning to play poker, Naruto-kun, but street poker, Hinata asked nervously, putting her index fingers together. Something she hasn't done for years. Me too, Naruto-kun, you know we would do anything for you, but if my dad found out, Tenten said nervously, bringing her hands to her breasts, which barely fit in them. I would punish myself until I was 18, and mom would get hysterical. Naruto just smiled, no trace of concern on his face. He came over and put a hand on their shoulder. Don't worry, Hinata-chan, Tenten-chan, we could do this with them sitting here, and neither of us would get in trouble. Hinata and Tenten looked at each other, really surprised, despite how well they knew him. Even for Naruto, that was too much. Naruto saw the looks and sensed that a question was coming. Do you trust me? Naruto said calmly and looked at Anko, who nodded with a big smile. Both girls said together without hesitation. Then relax and trust me. Everything is under control, Naruto said warmly. Both girls nodded and relaxed. Fine. I have already prepared the table in the dining room and the food. Let's go play. Anko said with a big smile. Everyone went to the table and sat down. I already know how to play poker, and you know how lucky I am. I'll stay out of the first game so you and Tenten-chan can master it. Okay, Hinata-chan. Naruto said. Hinata nodded. Can we learn normal poker first, Anko-chan? Hi, we'll play a warm-up poker game so you two can learn it, Naruto-kun. Bring the poker chips, Anko said. Naruto took the poker chips and handed them out. 20 red, 20 blue, 20 white. The red ones are worth 10, the blue ones 5, and the white one 1. As it is your first time, the initial bet will be 1. It's the money you have to put in the pot before each hand starts, Naruto said and explained how to play. Then the hands, what they were called, the cards that made them up and what beat what. That's a straight flush. The best hand you can have is called a royal flush. These are the 5 highest cards in order. Ace, King, Queen, J and 10, all of the same suit, do you understand? Naruto said, and waited for a moment until both girls nodded. Well, compared to learning jutsu, poker is pretty easy, right? And Mata and Tenten nodded. Oh, and Mata-chan, not Vyakugan, that's cheating. I know you wouldn't, but that, and using a jutsu are against the rules. Anko-chan has played several times in casinos, and they have special security that can detect chakra if you use it. Even in a minimal amount. Think of it as training. It helps with strategy and controlling emotions, Naruto said. And Mata and Tenten nodded. I couldn't have said it better, I'll start, Anko said with a smile. He shuffled the cards and dealt 5 to everyone except Naruto. Then, he took her hand and put a white token. He watched Imada and tried to do the same. Anko looked to his right, where Naruto was sitting. In front of her, she was Inat, and Tenten on her left. Let's see, a pair of queens, a 2, a 5 and a 7, it's not much, but it suits me, Anko thought. Then discarded 3 cards and drew new ones. Shit, another queen. I bet 5, Anko said calmly, and put a blue chip. And Nada looked at her cards. She took a quick look at Anko when she bet to try to read it, but she couldn't. Anko is good at this. I only have these small numbers, I need a new one. Wait, what do you call that having 5 itself? Sequence, but of different suits. Straight flush. It's only 2 2 6, But if I bluff well, I should win this hand, Inata thought. I bet 5, Inata said calmly and put a blue chip. 2 7s, 2 8s, and a 3. If I remember correctly, that's 2 even. Not much, but it'll do. Cool, Anko did it. Tenten thought, then discarded his 3 and pulled out a third 7. Tenten resisted the urge to smile happily as always, as if he was on a mission and had to hide his emotions. I bet 5, Tenten said, and put a blue chip. Mom, what a great poker face for the new genin, but they were the best kunoichi in the academy. Good start, but it's time to separate the girls from the women. Anko thought, frowned slightly for a moment, waited just enough to be seen, and threw a blue and red token. I'm up 10, Anko said with a bit of fake bravado. I wanted them to think I was bluffing, and to bet hard. And Nada smiled broadly and matched Anko's bet. Tenten restrained his emotions, and put 2 red and 1 blue chips. I'm up 10. Anko called, watched Inata and Tenten stay, then